CNN. After 3 days on hurricane watch, Tiffany Trump breathed a sigh of relief. The weather is finally starting to soften in Palm Beach, Florida, and the weather looked sunny and warm for Saturday, the wedding day. Two people familiar with the mood of the bride-to-be told CNN that Donald Trump's youngest daughter, his only child with his second wife, Marla Maples, celebrated the end of the season storm and her Mar-a-Lago with 25-year-old Michael Boulos, her boyfriend of 4 years. But while Tropical Storm Nicole is on its way, the Trumps may still be in turmoil over the weekend. They gather as their patriarch moves towards the 2024 presidential race, a possibility that not everyone in the family is excited about. Some are signaling that they don't want to be too involved, sources close to the family told CNN. 3 people familiar with the former president's activities say he is not in good spirits. Most of the high-profile candidates he supported in the midterms failed to win a win, and some Republicans are now whispering that his influence on the party is waning. One of the people calls Trump grumpy. Right now, those familiar say Trump is focusing more on Tuesday's special announcement that he may or may not announce his planned third nomination for president. His mind is preoccupied with the 2024 political landscape and where and how to fit into it. But first he has to finish one more job, the bride's father. Trump typically likes to be the center of attention in his private club, which also serves as his home, but only if he is being congratulated or in the mood for praise. Preparation for Tiffany's big day has been tough, and with the skies clear and guests descending on Mar-a-Lago, sources say the former president is lowly. 2 people familiar with Trump's mood say that he is also at odds with his wife, Melania Trump, following a post-election news. US Senate. The New York Times reported that Donald Trump blamed Melania Trump for endorsing the television doctor. During a rally this year, she mentioned that his wife is a huge Oz fan. Being featured in a story isn't something the overly private Melania Trump enjoys, and Trump soon apologized to her on Truth Social for saying made-up stories about her involvement. But the damage says 2 people did it. Also, when the ex-president is depressed, everyone turns away from him, including his wife. CNN reached out to the former president's spokesperson. Yet it's a wedding and an entire family can't escape each other completely. Those who know her say that Tiffany Trump has close relationships with all of her half-brothers. Although often referred to as Trump's forgotten daughter, during the White House years when her older sister, Ivanka Trump, was at the center of the scene, Tiffany, who graduated from Georgetown Law in 2020, is closely tied to her older sister. Ivanka was present at Tiffany's bridal shower, a celebration held at a France's home in Palm Beach last weekend that included a tiered Tiffany blue cake with her mom Marla Maples and stepmother Melania Trump. CNN reached out to a spokesperson for Tiffany Trump for comment on this story. Ivanka and Tiffany Trump still have a strong relationship, but elsewhere the family dynamic has changed over the past 2 years. Ivanka's interactions with her father have changed since they both left the White House. Now living in Miami, Ivanka doesn't yearn for Washington. Far from that, one of the few people who spoke to CNN on condition her name remained anonymous in order to preserve her personal and professional relationships with the family. CNN reached out to a spokesperson for Ivanka Trump and received no response. It's not a role that Ivanka Trump, the president's senior advisor, wants to revive. We'll never come back to that life, says one familiar with her thinking. She knows there is nothing to serve herself or her family at this point, Another person says Ivanka is done with Washington since the day she left, and that hasn't changed. A third person argues that if Ivanka had anything to do with re-entering politics, people would see her on the campaign trail, pushing the midterm candidates. One knowledgeable person said he received 0 attendance or public support, despite requests from some in tight races. All the people who spoke to CNN say that Ivanka Trump's life is focused on her 3 young children. While he has yet to speak directly to Donald Trump about his indifference to a second White House campaign, one of the people with knowledge of the family talks says Trump is aware that any offer did not include his doctor's help. Trump would also be absent from the presence of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who was once Trump's watchdog in the White House and one of the most connected and influential voices in his administration. Jared is not considering joining the campaign and getting involved again, says a source familiar with Kushner's plans. CNN reached out to a spokesperson for Jared Kushner and received no response. The person said Kushner had a good relationship with his father-in-law and that he made an effort to be with, but would do little more than occasionally offer advice should Trump run for re-election. I'm sure we'll be tested in a lot of different ways, es his father-in-law, but that said he'd be far from helpful the way he has helped before, he said. Kushner, who now runs a private equity firm, Chase, continued, in a way Trump hasn't done for the past few years. Trump is probably aware of his wife Ivanka and Jared's indifference to the campaign. Melania Trump did little in the way of strangling her husband during her first run for the White House, and she only held 3 personal campaign events on her behalf before the 2020 election. There is no indication that Melania Trump will change her habits and take an active part in any upcoming campaigns. In an interview in May, when she was asked if she could live in the White House again, "Never say never," was all she could say. Just 4 seats were set up for the Trump family last week during a rally in Ohio for J.D. Vance, where it was said that Trump could announce the latest presidential election. Eric and Laura Trump and Donald Trump Jr., and Kimberly Guilfoyle. Donald Trump Jr. is sending different signals to his friends. Of course. The response of a person familiar with Don Jr.'s thinking when asked if Trump would campaign for his son if he announces his candidacy next week. In Don Jr. his stepmother, Sisti, and brother-in-law aren't shy about another Trump presidency. He will campaign for his father, the person said. CNN reached out to a spokesperson for Donald Trump Jr. and received no response. Don Jr., he is currently the closest family counselor Trump has. Unlike his presidential years, when Ivanka and Jared were close circles, Don Jr. has emerged as a key figure in the future of Trump politics. But that doesn't mean Don Jr. wants to replace Jared and Ivanka. He doesn't want Jared's backstage role, the source says, adding that Don Jr. is not involved in Trump's micromanagement. Citing Don Jr.'s insistence that Trump not announce his candidacy before the midterm exam, as an example, has no problem saying it out loud when he has strong opinions about something about his father, election. It just didn't make sense. If his father runs away again, views and looks will be Don Jr.'s sweet spot, but the eldest Trump son will draw the line in a defined job description. There will be no shadow campaign manager or anything, says the source, who adds Don Jr. Eric Trump, and possibly his wife, Laura Trump, who is a frequent guest on conservative news sites, will fall below Don Jr.'s level of attendance at Trump's second act more than Ivanka and Jared. Most people speaking to CNN say division over the heads of families' political plans isn't a concern. Tiffany Trump won't change her seating to keep the pro-campaign faction away from the anti-campaign group. Mar-a-Lago, closed until Friday due to the storm, will be back in full swing for Tiffany to marry Boulos, the son of a wealthy businessman who owns several companies in Nigeria. The wedding will not be a place for arguments and power plays. It's going to be all about Tiffany one day, says one person familiar with the event and said to be an $1 million affair. They get along great, said one of the people who spent time with the siblings, adding that politics and their fathers don't always talk when they get together. Believe it or not, they're a pretty normal family.